I'm Rick Dancer. Welcome. This is a special edition of Get Real with Rick Dancer. Um, I'm really honored to be able to do this. A friend of mine, a great man, a mentor, um, a guy who is like a cornerstone in my life, passed away on Friday last week. Richard Gorsuch was 90 years old. When I met him, he was 69. And what's really cool about this story is it's just, well, here's what we're going to do. I did a year and a half ago, I did an interview with Richard and Bonnie Gorsuch. I told the story, as I have many times over the years, of how he touched my life and some of the things he told me that I never forgot. And somebody said, I know Richard. I've got his phone number. So I called up Richard. We ended up doing this interview. Then when that happened, a guy named Neil, who was a friend of Richard's, who actually was the guy who set me up with this story 22 years ago, he said, Neil has a copy of the video he taped off his television set back when it aired originally in 2002. So Richard made a lot of really good friends in his life. But this is a story about a man who, for no reason at all that he knows of, except he feels like God told him to do it, he painted Haystack Rock in Cannon Beach, Oregon, every day for 365 days. And what he learned out of that was amazing. And listen in the story, because how this all started was when he was a young child at Cannon Beach, a rock fell off of the rock and hit him on the head and did some damage, but he never forgot that rock. So we think that's what became of it. And the project never did anything, which, at least it never was of any value, financially or anything, but it was sure value to him, and it was surely value to me. So I thought I'd just air that story and the original interview with him, just kind of as a tribute, because Richard made me think about my life differently. And I look back in the last 15 years of my career in television news, I was always interviewing people who were gutsy, ballsy, people who were willing to risk it all and do something different with their lives. I think I was looking for a way out. And all these people, there's so many stories I did, and Richard's just one of them, but a very important one. One of the things he said off camera that I will never forget, and it will always be a part of my life. Rick, go find the thing that makes you sing and sing. Find the thing that makes you dance and dance. Find the thing that makes you come alive and come alive. He said, there's too many people walking around this earth, their heart's beating, but they're not living. And even today, as I look at my 65-year-old future, I'm still younger than it was when I met Richard. I got plenty of time to find the thing that makes me come alive. I hope this inspires you, as he inspired me. Richard Gorsuch, rest in peace, buddy. I know you're in line. So here you go.
Start this. The Gorsuches will be here in just a few minutes, in like 6 minutes, but I want to take you back to 2002. And this is the story where I had a call, and my favorite photographer in the world to work with, Kurt Richter, put this together. We went down to Cannon Beach to talk to this artist who we did not know, who was painting Haystack Rock in Cannon Beach every day for 365 days. Now, what you're going to see is the younger version of Rick Dancer.
To look beyond common sense and do what your heart tells you. That's what this next story is all about. A man, his gift, a strange assignment, completion, and what he learned along the way.
All right, here we go.
A man on a journey.
There's 100 steps to Ocean Avenue down here. When you walk it every day, you start measuring everything.
Every day of 2002, 365 days, one simple purpose.
You get caught up in it. It's so inspiring, and you get kind of captivated by it, captured, lost in it, and you really don't want to leave. The wind from the east catches this spray up here at the top and then sends it backwards.
At age 69, Richard Gorsuch is finally realizing a connection he made with Haystack Rock back when he was just a kid.
Rock came down and hit me on the head. I got a big lump right here in my right side of my head today. It's still there. And a scalp wound, and and stunned me and knocked me into the water. I look back now and think, here, that simple little accident kind of connected me with the rock once and for all, And here I am today, decades later, going through all of this. I mean, you got to admit, that's just the mystery.
The all of this Richard is talking about is his project. For the last year, Richard has painted Haystack Rock from the same place every single day.
And I like the moon, and I like this misty one. I got a lot of favorites, I guess.
365 moments.
Of course, I didn't know what I was getting into, but I went down there to paint, and the wind was blowing over 80 miles an hour, according to the weather report.
23,000 square inches of surface.
I'm so close to the truth when I'm recording life as it happens.
3 hours a day.
I'm more compassionate and I'm more committed because I've lived out a commitment.
Captured, preserved forever.
There's probably over 1,000 hours in the course of all the hours, the waking hours of the year that have gone into this project. And why? I don't know, except that I have been experiencing something that's helping me come to know that I'm being authentic.
Authenticity doesn't come easy. Each painting a record of how much things stay the same and how much they change.
That's really the hook on this whole thing. It's a whole year of images of this gigantic monolith that people come here by the tens of thousands to see and to walk near. Just look at them all, just walking around there and lost in their thoughts.
For Richard, the rock is symbolic of God, a foundation, a stability that is always there, but like the rock he loves, sometimes unseen.
And there's this calm in the center of the hurricane, or in the center of the vortex, and there is that sense of calm here in Cannon Beach that we hear people talk about and we feel ourselves. And that's part of the mystique of what's going on here.
Richard's purpose was not perfection.
I think a lot of people, especially in the arts, they don't write the novel they want to write, or they don't build the furniture they want to build, or sing the song they want to sing, because it's got to be perfect.
And then it never gets done.
See what you can do if you will just dedicate yourself to it one day at a time.
No real reason, no profit motivation, just because.
I think there's something in our culture that we gotta always have to have an end result of what we do, I just know I had to show up and do it with no agenda.
One man's journey, a chronicle.
I think that's what I hope, that someone will look and say, someone did something that was important, must be important, they wouldn't have done it. Why would they do something like that every day?
An inspiration for others to look for their rock.
There's a far greater reason for your life, for what you're doing here, than painting these pictures. But you're going to find out what it is by painting the pictures. Just show up, do what you're supposed to do. So I'm waiting to find out what that is, to be honest.
Great moments must be remembered.
Lead me to the rock that is higher than I, Psalm 61:2. So the rock has become that kind of symbol.
Something that says you were here, you did it.
On the other side of this, he put this inscription that this rock marks the site where Richard Gorsuch painted Haystack Rock 365 days in 2002.
Richard did not do this alone. Old friends from long ago must also be remembered.
Reverently place that bottle of marbles that someone gave me 25 years ago. They gave me those marbles and said, "You're too serious, Gorsuch. You need some marbles in your life. When are you going to start playing? I said, what do you mean, Jack? He said, you should be painting. So, Jack, I did it.
Now, Richard says he may display the pictures in art galleries. He might even put them on video. At this point, he's really not sure what he's going to do with them. But he says he finished it, and that was really the point of it all. We'll be right back.
So that was me a long time ago, 20 years. And that story has always kind of sat in the back of my head. And I never really thought that I'd get back a hold of Richard Gorsuch. Richard, hello, you two.
Hi there.
So you guys, this is Richard and Bonnie Gorsuch. And just so that you guys understand, Richard's had a couple of strokes, and so it's a little tough to communicate. But we think this is worthwhile, and we're going to do this anyway. So Richard will answer some questions, and everybody will get to be patient because sometimes it takes a little longer to get things out. And Bonnie's going to fill in blanks and all that kind of stuff. So what was that like for you two just watching that video?
Okay, well, I'll answer first. I love Cannon Beach, and it was just really neat seeing Richard doing what he did and at our old house and our old location where we raised our boys and all these wonderful things. And plus, he's looks different now. He's down to his high school weight. I am very jealous. And anyway, it was wonderful. I totally remember us moving to Cannon Beach from Coburg and landing there. And Richard went from being a full-time self-employed person to not knowing what he was going to be doing with the rest of his life. And so then he said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to paint haystack rock every day for 365 days. I'm like, luckily we'd made enough money off the sale of our house in Coburg that we had some money rolling around so he could take a year off.
So what, and I talked to Richard on the phone, so I kind of know this, but even Richard, if you want to answer this, that you still, after 20 years, don't have a reason for that?
I'm sensitive to the enthusiasm, the happiness to be doing what I was doing. That kind of communication doesn't lie. And I loved it. I knew it was happening then. I know today it's the real thing. The whole show you put on the camera on the narration, it's the real thing. Real people doing the real thing and loving it.
You know, my wife was in here before we were waiting for you guys, and my son and my wife were in here, and they were watching that video. And the words you speak, Richard, you still have it. I mean, I still hear it in your voice, a profoundness that you understand kind of God and how this works in life. What I love when I called you and you said there's still not, there was a purpose and a reason, but you still haven't figured it out yet completely. Because isn't that what life is like, Bonnie? I mean, don't you think that's how we should be comfortable living?
Definitely, Rick. And basically, that's how Richard and I have lived for 37 years of marriage. The man graduated from University of South Dakota with a major in advertising art. So since then, he's been a self-employed artist. And believe me, that hasn't been the easiest as far as family life and bills and this sort of thing. Not getting the regular paycheck every Friday from KEZI or wherever. And so that's, been a big challenge for us as a married couple. However, it's all been worth it, Rick.
So you learn to trust, don't you?
I have learned to trust Richard, definitely, and also the Holy Spirit that lives within Richard primarily.
because when we came down there, I remember Neil's the one, Neil who's got the video, he's the one who set me up on this, and he just said, you've got to meet these people, you're going to love this story. And I never knew when, kind of 20 years ago in my career, I was doing stories like on people like Richard, who had taken a risk, who were willing to get out. Because I think for me in my life, I was afraid, because I was raised in a house where in fact, all of my sisters, both two of them right now are just retiring, and they've been with the same company for 30 years. So after 25 years at KEZI, I was going, I should have left here 5 years ago and gotten out. And it's much more scary to live like Richard taught me to live, but it's also, I think it's really living.
So
Adventure.
And but we want, don't you think American culture, we want comfort. Adventure is costly, and you can fall off ledges, and you don't know, like Bonnie, like you were saying, you don't know where your next paycheck's going to come from.
yes. Well, I believe that adventure costs less than the other one, because when you have the other one, and I forget what that other one is, we were just talking about, but I mean, everybody in this culture wants more, more, more. And honestly, when you live like we've lived for all these years, you actually don't need all the stuff that people are clamoring after today, like the next biggest car, the next biggest house, the next biggest everything. I mean, it turns out that we ended up in a very small cottage right near the Columbia River versus a pretty large house in Cannon Beach. And we're tapering down our life, because we both know that both of us don't have much time. I mean, Richard will be 89 this month. I'm living joyfully with stage 4 breast cancer. And so we both have things that we know we're not going to be here forever. And so we're just really happy day by day, like two former good alcoholics, which we weren't. But I'm just saying, we're living just one day at a time, and it's beautiful.
So, Bonnie, can I ask, this is kind of a weird question, but I've always wanted, I was really good friends with Frank and Jeannie Moore. And Frank Moore just passed away recently. And they were both together. They've been married like 70 years. I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so when you go to bed at night, you kind of look at each other and go, okay, one of us may not be here tomorrow. I mean,
yes, definitely. I mean, in fact, we talk about death every day, because that's just where we've gotten. I mean, I was driving him to the hospital in May of 21. That's one of the reasons why we moved here, to be closer to his health care. So as I'm driving to the hospital, I end up having a seizure in the car, and they find out I have a brain tumor. So my breast cancer had metastasized to my lungs, my brain, and my bone. And so every day we just know that we're both very close to the end. And I told him yesterday, I really would like to die after you, because there's so many things that I do every day that you don't know that I do, like bill paying and getting more affairs in order than I've already gotten in order. So it would be more sensible from my standpoint if you did go before I did, Richard. But God is much more sensible than I am, so maybe I will go before you. But yeah. I mean, we got married when I was 30 and he was 51. And so we got married on my 30th birthday, because he didn't want to marry somebody in her 20s. And so we got married in Eugene on my 30th birthday. And so it's been a beautiful time. So
when you watch that story and you see the advice Richard was, I mean, because it was profound for me. You know what I mean? It was profound. Richard, you've had a profound effect on my life. And I've never forgotten you. And that day and what you said, and I've quoted that for years. Go Rick Dancer, go find the thing. Because off camera, we had a really close conversation. And you said, go find the thing that makes you come alive. Go find the thing that makes you sing and sing. Go find the thing that makes you dance, Rick Dancer, and dance. And I think now it's so weird that you and I are talking now, because Kathy and I just moved to Montana. We've left Oregon. My whole life was in Oregon. And it's been a really amazing yet difficult journey. And I'm not going to get into specific details, but there's a lot of trust going on here. I mean, it's a lot of things going, like, I feel like I'm standing on the plank of the pirate ship, and it's, do I jump and my arms are tied and just trust that God's gonna bring me back up? And I'm not being over dramatic. That's really what it feels like. And you guys know that.
Yes.
It's called faith.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
It's called faith.
Yeah,
It's called faith, right? For sure.
Faith.
Right.
I gotcha.
Yes.
So what happens to that project that Richard did once Richard goes on to be with in a better place?
Right. So he got done with the project December 31st, 02. And so then it was like he had to do other things in order to bring in some income. And so he just started being a full-time painter, which it turns out that's why we moved to Cannon Beach, was that he was retiring from all the freelance stuff he was doing for a hospital in Eugene, a publisher in Eugene, different companies in Eugene. He was just really tired after being self-employed for all those years. So we moved to Cannon Beach, and he just basically became a full-time painter. And as far as those paintings went, the 365, there were various places that would have loved to exhibit them, but they would be more like kind of broken up, like the series would have been broken up, because no place really has enough room to display all those properly. And so Richard never did agree to ever display them anywhere. I think it was just kind of a heart thing. I mean, it did like go to his heart, and he did do what he wanted to do, and he got a lot of time to think about where he'd been and where he was at the present and where he's going in the future. And so they're just safely packed away right now. And they have been all scanned and in order, like from January 1st through December 31st. So they will still find a proper, like, what do you call, permanent thing, like maybe a coffee table book or something like that in the future. But in the meantime, they're in a safe place. I think Richard wants to say something.
Yeah. In addition to the getting out on the beach in the morning with all my gear and getting set up, what I didn't plan on, but I started painting. In the corner of my eye, I see some lone figure walking along. Sort of, I said to them, they're about to change course. I said to myself, and then sure enough, they changed it. Freddy's and that person standing nearby in the silence, and I'd say, hi. They'd say, hi. And then I keep painting, they keep thinking or walking away, kind of turn around, coming back. Then the question comes. And that little exercise repeated itself, not every day, but most of the time. A different person, or a mother and two little kids who want to paint like me. So I say, go ahead and let them work on the painting. I'd fix it later. So, but pretty soon I had little small palettes made up, and give them a brush and paint and a palette and say, you are at home. A decade or so later, those people, the family of beach homes sought me out and see that the paintings that their granddaughter did are framed in our home.
Wow.
What's that worth?
Yeah.
What does that do to your heart?
Right. And Richard, you said in that story, and I remember you saying this, that it's hard, like especially as an artist and a painter, it's hard to get going, to be committed.
Right.
And by you doing that 365 days, it showed you. I had no idea. I didn't remember that you were retiring, which is so weird because now I'm you. And it's like, so I'm going back, and once again, Richard Gorsuch is teaching me how to do this thing called life. Some reason these two Richards, I almost said these two dicks, but these two Richards came together, and you've been guiding me in my life, my whole life. And
what an honor to sit here and hear you say that. I thank you so much.
Well,
Well,
Richard,
he'll see you at 109. How's that? 109. He'll see you when he's 109 and you're 89.
yeah. And then we'll see if I learned the lesson. Because what that taught you then is you were going through a change in your life, a big change. And you were in a new place. And if you're going to be an artist, you've got to be committed to it and doing it. And that 365 days was God's way of making you, almost taking you from the creature of business where you could do it and saying, okay, if you're going to be an artist, you have to have some of that, adopt some of that same behavior pattern, but in a freer way. And so you got to find that took a year, and that was the only way that was the way he chose to do it for you. And then through that, it connected you and me.
Right. Amen.
Another thing that hit me this morning or last night was back to why I went out there on the beach to paint. There's a certain kind of solitude, that a peaceful, calm, restful feeling about being near the rock. It's something just me saying that. I hear it over and over. But prior to moving to Cannon Beach, my mother died, my stepdad died, and my father died. And I needed to be alone in a place like Cannon Beach to process that and let go of that, and expressing my feelings in painting, moving oils around on board, and it doesn't have to be right or it can't be wrong. It's just you're doing something to get reconciled with the change that is happening deep inside.
Is it kind of fun for the two of you to be able to look back? Because this is a hoot for me, to look back 20 years and see that there was a purpose. And these are just the ones that you know. Think of all the other people, like you're saying, Richard, that walked by. And maybe that's what we forget about life, is that there's all these little things in what we sometimes see as drudgery, that are actually have great meaning. We just don't pay attention to them.
For sure. Yes. Well said.
I think too the term artist forgot.
It's okay. We both forget stuff.
Art therapy, yeah. It's like an art therapy.
Art therapy.
It's only 365 days, and plus having to live through many storms, you find out how much you love something when you're in the midst of a storm. And the storms had a tremendous effect on me. You got to be half nuts to go out there in a storm. But I loved it. Even the wind picked me up, moved me a few feet. But it was fun. It'll be fun.
Yes.
So Bonnie, what have you learned in the last year and a half about life? I'll let you kind of close out some of this for me.
Oh, you mean the year and a half since I found out that I had metastatic breast cancer?
Yes, because you're basically supposed to already be gone.
Right. Well, when I found that tumor in my brain, the doctor said, well, you have 6 months to a year to live. And knowing myself like I do and knowing my Lord like I do, I was like, be S. And so, and then, but I did let my circle of people know that that's what he said, because I wanted them to know that it was a serious situation, but I also want them to see me in 10 or 20 years and say what you just said, which is, wait, what happened? You're supposed to be dead. So it's just like, thank you, Jesus, that you helped me. And I have all sorts of little rituals that I do with him to see me through day to day. And I'm feeling really optimistic about my situation.
Well, I just want to thank you both. This has been like kind of like a dream for me. And it's just, it's kind of nice to be able to just thank you, Richard, for, just being you. And today, and what's kind of cool about this is because you set into motion things that were going to happen in my life that I had no idea. Or God used you to set into motion some things that I could hear. But today, I didn't know anything about that you had just retired and you were me. And now it's kind of like, Richard, it's kind of like I feel like God kind of gave me you as this guide in my life. And I really appreciate that from you.
It's no coincidence.
No.
And it's funny you say that, because all of a sudden, like when you called that day, like last week or whatever about this, then all of a sudden all these people are contacting Richard to say, hey, can I come over, or can I write to you, or can we go back to where we were like 10 years ago and pick up? And I mean, all of a sudden people realize that Richard's getting older and we're not going to have him forever. And I want to just get in on the last few inches of this.
Because Richard, you really are a profound man. I mean, that art thing in you, and when you speak, even today, I think it's so funny because I know you've had two strokes, but I heard a little nugget, and I'm going to go back and listen to that again because it was something that I feel like it was a whisper from God. He said it, and I even going back and watching the story, I was remembering the things you said. And I just this last week, I've been going, God, what do you want me to do? I mean, something's changing. I can sense that. There's something changing in my world. And I think everybody's always encouraging me. My art is writing. And I think I'm going to go write my book. And you will be in it.
Thank you.
Because you are the other Richard, and you will be in it. And I thank you for being my guide in doing this. And just for the audience, is like Richard and I have not kept in contact or anything. And that's the cool thing about God and love and people in your life. I have very few people that have stayed in my life all the time. In fact, my wife and my kids are my family. But other than that, I don't. And I think that's the exciting part, because I think when we're done with this whole thing, all of a sudden it's like a big reunion and you're going, oh my gosh. So here's what I think. Here's what I honestly think. I think when you die, we go to, first we're going to sleep. The whole thing about you just wake up with God is just weird to me because, what's he doing up there going, God, we got to get this thing over with. These people are so bored. You're boring me. But I think there's this thing where when all of a sudden you start going, and then you have this revelation where you're going, oh, that's why Frank Moore was in my life. That's why this happened. That's why you didn't let me get that job. And see, so for me, this little thing here, this is like me getting a glimpse of that, because it's like I'm going, God, I feel like I was going, that's why Richard and I did that story. That's why I talked about him the other day. That's why that lady got me his phone number. That's why Neil gave me the video that I never had. I lost that video.
Yes.
So it's like a little picture of what it's going to be like when we get on the other side.
Right.
So I think that's super fun. And
one last thing about you, Rick, I've been noticing since we've been in contact the last week, you seem a lot happier and a lot more freed up than you were when you were in Eugene.
Yeah. It's been a really good change for us. I will admit I have sleepless moments because I'm just thinking, how is it the economy and everything? I'm like everybody else out there I'm nervous. And I have to give that over to God every day. And I'm starting to write. I haven't journaled since I was in therapy years ago, and I've started journaling it. 3 mornings ago, I started writing out my thoughts again, because that really helps me put it on paper. It's my, it's an art form, and it helps me kind of write, and then I can write my blogs and stuff like that. So I think that's super helpful. So I'm back in the swing.
Yay! Well, we'll look for your book.
Okay. Thank you again for coming on, you guys.
Thank you, Nick.
You let me know anything that's going on and happening. Okay.
Okay. And God bless you and your family.
You too. And if either one of you gets there before me,
we'll let you know.
Well, would you,
we'll let you know.
Kind of tell God some good things. Okay.
Oh, you're going straight up. We know that.
Oh, I think it's going to be, you sit out there for just a moment. Remember that thing? I had worked with a photographer one time, and he said, what I'm going to do when I get there is I'm going to ask God, do you have an editing machine? And just give me 10 minutes. I've got a couple things I want to get out of my life.
All right. Yeah,
I told him, I think that's supposed to be Jesus, so I don't think you need an editing machine anymore.
Right.
All right, you guys.
My friend, thank you so much, and God bless.
Yeah, love you both. Thank you.
Bye, Rick. Thank you.
See you later. So, welcome to my profound moment. We call this Get Real with Rick Dancer. And I did that because for so many years on the news, I had to be Rick Dancer. And my real name is Rick Dancer, but when, I had to be a caricature of myself. And some people go, well, you don't have to. Well, no, because you didn't live my life, but you had to, because you cannot be a human being and do all that. So when I left and I lost the race for Secretary of State, and I started figuring out my life with Kathy again, what we were going to do, I just said, I have to do real. And when the pandemic hit and I did real, it didn't go over with everybody very well. And with the current things going on in the world, and I talk about it, and I'm real, and I give you my real opinion. And it's interesting, all those people who wanted me to be authentic and real don't really like that real. So maybe this is just what it's supposed to be. And I didn't say I was right. I said, I'm real. I'm righteous. I'm not self-righteous. I'm wrong, but I'm real. And I'm always, always looking for the truth. Because the truth is the only thing that will ever set us free.
So as I said, Richard passed away on Friday. Here's a little kind of piece of advice, I think. When you have people in your life like that, tell them. There's another man who's just another Richard for me. His name's Alan Beck. He was a news director, and he was taught me how to just say screw it. And we were back in Oregon last summer, and I saw his wife in a store, and I said, oh my gosh, where's Alan? She goes, he'll be out in the car in just a few minutes. And so I went out and waited, and all of a sudden Alan walked up, and I walked up to him. At first he didn't know who I was because he's a little bit older too. And then when I said who I was, and then I sat and looked at him, and I thought, I may never see him again. And I just told him how much he meant to me, how much he did for me, specifics about how he freed me up to be the kind of guy on TV that I was supposed to be, not some plastic bubblehead. And Alan had little tears just running down his face. And I gave him a big hug, and I said, thank you so much, Alan, for helping to make me who I am today. So people don't stay forever. And I got to tell Richard right there how much he meant to me. And he will be in my book. I'm Rick Dancer. Thanks for, being here. Share it on your page if there's someone you might know that might benefit from this. And Richard Gorsuch, amazing. What an amazing life you led. Good night.